On one of Earth's long journeys around the sun, there comes a season that always arrives in the quietest way possible. A season when colors fade, sounds soften, and time itself feels as if it slows down. That season is winter. Yet for nature, winter is not merely the dropping of temperature. It is a grand stage where the strangest, most fragile, most beautiful, and most mysterious phenomena appear all at once. Phenomena born from pressure, from stillness, and from the limits of how much cold the world can endure. To understand the wonders of winter, we must begin with something very simple. On a freezing morning in Alaska, the air becomes so cold that human breath no longer turns into ordinary mist. It crystallizes instantly into tiny ice particles floating in the air. This phenomenon is called ice fog, a white curtain of frozen haze that hangs thick and heavy as if the world has stopped breathing. At -40 degrees, the air is no longer an empty space, but a place where fragility lives. And when the temperature drops even further, an even more delicate phenomenon is born. Diamond dust. Microscopic ice crystals that shimmer like tiny stars falling from the sky. When people walk through it, they look as if they are moving through another galaxy. Diamond dust transforms the air into light. Each crystal refracts sunlight into soft colors, reminding us that even painful cold can create extraordinary beauty. But the wonders of the air do not end there. When the wind carries enough moisture and freezes it in an instant, rime ice forms. A layer of feathery ice that grows on branches, fences, wires, or anything that stands against the wind. Rime ice looks like white feathers growing from lifeless objects, as if the world is slowly turning into a forest of crystal fur. Higher on the spectrum lies hoarfrost, a phenomenon far more intricate and far more confusing, especially for anyone hearing the name for the first time. The word itself often becomes a source of jokes. But in science, hoar means old or ancient, referring to the frost's appearance that resembles white hair growing from surfaces. Hoarfrost is a forest of tiny ice crystals that grows when the air is extremely cold and humid. If rime ice looks like feathers, hoarfrost resembles miniature trees. Hundreds of thin branches grow silently in the darkness of night. When dawn arrives and the first light touches them, every crystal reflects a bluish-white glow, creating a view that looks as if the world has been coated with glass. Although its name often leads to misunderstandings, the beauty of hoarfrost is never ambiguous. It is one of the most delicate works of art ever created by cold air. In freezing air, sound also changes. Acoustic resonance softens, footsteps become quieter, even human breath becomes visible. This visible breath, appearing like a thin white vapor, shows how fragile the boundary is between the warmth of the human body and the coldness of the world outside. Yet winter's atmospheric wonders are not only about freezing air. There are displays of light far more magnificent. In the northern sky, green, purple, and blue lights dance in silence. This is the aurora, a glow born from the collision between solar particles and Earth's atmosphere. But auroras are not the only miracles in the winter sky. There is also a moment when sunlight splits into multiple glowing points. Sundogs appear as bright spots to the left and right of the sun, caused by hexagonal ice crystals refracting the light. In perfect conditions, a third light appears above the sun, creating the illusion of three suns shining together in the winter sky. When night comes, the moon replaces the sun as the source of light. And the moon has its own wonders. A moon halo, a giant ring encircling the moon, forms when ice crystals in the atmosphere bend moonlight. Even rarer is the moonbow, a lunar rainbow. It often appears white to the naked eye, but through long exposure cameras, the full spectrum of color becomes visible. Eventually, winter brings us down to the ground, to the frozen surface of the Earth, where some of the strangest and most puzzling phenomena take place. When dry wind meets extreme temperatures, ice needles appear. Long hair-like crystals rise straight from the ground, thin and fragile but growing quickly. There are also ice flowers, frozen blossoms that form not from water but from vapor that freezes on grass, tree bark, or dry leaves. They look like delicate white ribbons wrapped around plants. as if nature is carving silent decorations. When lake or river ice breaks in a particular way, candle ice is formed. Sheets of ice fracture into thin vertical columns resembling candles, and when the wind blows across them, they rattle and clink together like fragile glass. Even more dramatic is the ice volcano. When pressurized water beneath the ice forces its way through a narrow crack, it erupts, freezes, and forms a cone that resembles a tiny frozen volcano. On the surface of lakes and slow-moving rivers, rotating disks of ice create another marvel, ice circles. Perfectly round and spinning gently, these white disks look as if they are being turned by an invisible hand. On flat, snow-covered plains, the wind sculpts the surface into sharp and striking forms. This is sastrugi, the frozen waves carved by strong winds. They can appear as soft ridges or as sharp blades rising from the snow, each shape revealing the direction and force of the wind that created them. Sastrugi are not only artworks of the wind, but also historical records of weather. Their patterns act as natural guides for explorers in places like Antarctica or Siberia, where each ridge becomes a written line describing how the wind shaped the frozen world. When the conditions align perfectly, snow does not always settle quietly on the ground. Sometimes the wind manages to roll it into natural cylinders called snow rollers. The bottom layer must be slippery, the top layer sticky, and the wind strong enough to push but not strong enough to destroy them. The result is a rolling mass of snow that moves across the surface like a giant white wheel formed without human touch. Snow rollers often look like enormous pastries or neatly rolled carpets of snow. In some areas, dozens of them appear at once, ranging from small hand-sized rolls to large ones as tall as a person's knee. Soft, round, and whimsical, snow rollers give the feeling that nature is playing, shaping forms that rarely appear but always captivate when they do. There is also graupel, one of winter's most puzzling forms of precipitation. Graupel forms when delicate snowflakes fall through supercooled clouds and become coated by many tiny droplets that freeze instantly. The result is soft, white pellets that resemble lightweight styrofoam. Graupel is softer than hail, yet heavier than powder snow, creating a unique texture and sound. When graupel falls, it does not land silently like ordinary snow, nor does it bounce sharply like hail. It produces a soft but audible patter. The small pellets pile up into a crumbly white layer that breaks easily when touched. Graupel reminds us that nature has countless ways of creating transitions between snow and ice. And of course, there is the most iconic form of winter, the snowflake. A snowflake is not just a piece of snow. It is a hexagonal ice crystal that grows from a tiny molecule of water freezing inside a cloud. From that nearly invisible center, delicate branches emerge, forming patterns so complex that nature can never repeat them. No two snowflakes are identical, not by myth, but by physics. A snowflake forms when water vapor attaches to a microscopic particle like dust, then freezes into a symmetrical shape. Its symmetry is not random. Water molecules naturally align at 120 degrees when freezing, giving the snowflake its six-sided structure. The hexagon is nature's blueprint for ice. The beauty of a snowflake is shaped by its surroundings. A tiny change in humidity, a shift in wind, or a temperature difference of only half a degree can reshape its form. More humidity creates longer branches. Drier air thickens its center. A slight breeze allows one side to grow faster than the other. Each detail becomes part of its frozen architecture. During its fall from the cloud to the ground, the snowflake passes through layers of air with different temperatures and moisture levels. In one layer, it may grow elongated branches. In another, it may form a thin plate, a needle, or a fern-like pattern. This journey creates the snowflake's final shape, sometimes a star, sometimes a plate with layered rims, and sometimes a microscopic carving too intricate for human hands to replicate. Under a microscope, a snowflake looks like a natural mandala. Every line is measured, every branch seems thoughtfully drawn. Yet every snowflake is completely unique, carrying its own record of wind, moisture, and cold. Snowflakes prove that nature is an artist that never rushes. In the heart of freezing cold, it creates millions of small masterpieces every second, each formed through a delicate and unrepeatable process. However, there is an even older and deeper form of ice known as blue ice. It forms when layers of snow are buried for thousands of years and compressed so tightly that all air bubbles disappear. In this state, red light is absorbed, and blue light is reflected. The result is deep blue, transparent walls of ice that resemble giant sapphires carved by time. There is also a phenomenon born not from air or light, but from life itself. In frozen lakes across Canada and Siberia, methane gas rises from decomposing plants and microorganisms at the bottom. Before the gas can escape into the air, winter freezes it in place. The bubbles are trapped in layers, creating white disks stacked like frozen jewels. Each bubble is a record of a biological process happening beneath the ice, a process that continues even when the surface appears completely still. Methane bubbles remind us that life does not stop just because the world is frozen. Beneath the thick ice, biological activity goes on. Through extreme cold, winter forms one of the most fascinating natural patterns on Earth, a moment where life, gas, and ice combine to create unexpected beauty. All of these phenomena may seem separate from one another, yet they share a single origin: extreme cold. Cold that forces nature to create new shapes, new lights, new geometries, new sounds, and new miracles. Winter writes its story differently. It does not use words. It uses crystals, light, and silence. And from all of it, we learn one truth. In the quietest places, in the lowest temperatures, at the moments when the world seems to stop breathing, the greatest wonders are often born.